Hey, this is Tech with Tana, and today's discussion is what is an API. An API is short for Application Programming Interface, and you can think of it as the way different components on the web talk to each other. It's the way that a website on your web browser is able to do the functions you need it to do. Have you ever thought how you log in into any page? This action requires an API request to be sent to the server of the website that you are accessing to validate your identity. To explain APIs a bit further, we're going to take this example and dig a little deeper. So whenever you log in into a web browser, you put on the website that you want to access. To log in, you put your username and password and you click login. What happens is the browser will actually create an API request with the needed information to be sent to the server to validate your identity. You can see here a sample request to validate Jean Dotto's Gmail and password. For the sake of simplicity, we will only now show three components of what an API request looks like. The first thing we have is the API URL. You can think of it as the address of this API. So where should this request be sent to be validated? And here you can see it's example.com/API/login. Then we have the request method. The request method identifies what kind of request are we sending. Are we sending a request to get information, to add information, or so on? We will discuss this later within this video. And finally, we have the request body. So in cases of login, we are sending the username and the password to the API that will validate the login for this user. Once the web browser sends this request, it will wait till it gets a response from the server to see if they can give you the access or not. So within the servers, what happens is that it will try to see if Jean Doe exists within its database, and then will try to verify the password. So then, within the backend code, there will be a request to the database to fetch Jean Dotto's profile. If you're not familiar with what a database is, you can think of it as an Excel sheet with information. So in case I have a table called profile, you can think of it as an Excel sheet with each row representing one profile. In this case, we are trying to fetch the record that has Jean Doe's Gmail. Once the database finds this record, it will return it to the backend. In the backend, it will review this profile and try to compare the password within the database versus the password that was sent from the request. If the passwords match, then great, the access is granted. Otherwise, the access is denied. After it does this validation, it will send the response back to the browser. And then the browser will get the response, and then it will be able to tell if yes, you've got the access, or oh no, the credentials are not correct, I cannot let you in. If you are curious about what are the available API requests that are happening within your web browser, I will show you a video of how you can actually inspect what are the network requests that are sent. You can open your web browser. For this, we're going to use google.com. You right-click, click Inspect. If you cannot see Inspect, you just have to enable developer tools from your settings. After you click Inspect, you will see this toolbar. Go to Network. And this technically shows you all the network elements that are happening. To just check the endpoints, we will go to fetch XHR. And now we're going to try to search to what is an API. So based on what we were discussing earlier, when searching for what is an API, we're expecting an API request to be sent, asking the Google server, we are searching for this query, which is what is an API, what are the results that you can return. So if we look at the network element here, we can see that on the top there is an API called search, and within the payload, so that is the body, it is sending the Q, which is usually short for query. What is an API? So this is what we typed. If you go to the headers, you will be able to see the request URL, the request method, which is in this case get, because we're asking them to get us information, and then the status code, which is 200, which means it's success. Then you'll be able to see the response, and you can see the preview of it, and this is the response that the API has returned. This is a neat tool that you can use to be able to see what are the kind of API requests that are sent and how is the response and so on. In APIs, there are a lot of API protocols available, and when we say protocols, that means a set of rules and standards that define how the communication will happen. So there are REST APIs, so that's one kind of protocol. We have SOAP APIs, we have GraphQL APIs, and we have webhook APIs. For the sake of this video, we are just gonna speak a bit about REST APIs. They are a style of an application program that uses HTTP requests to access and use data. And they also have a couple of actions that will help us understand what are the actions that an API can do. For this, we're going to take the example of a social media page. So if I access a social media page, I can see there are tons of posts. I click on a post, and then I can see there are like maybe 20 comments, and like I have to click to view the comments. So let's now imagine I have to click to view the comments. So what kind of action am I doing here? I want to retrieve the comments, so this is a get request, and usually in the request method, it will be a get. After I get the comments, I will be able to view them within the web page. I decide I'm going to add a comment of my own. So I type up the comment and I hit send. When we're sending a new set of data to be added on the server, to save a new comment or so on, these actions are called post actions. So this request method is called post. After it's saved in the database, I just noticed that I have a typo in my message and I need to edit it. I will click on edit, change the text, and then click update. Whenever we update anything on the database, so whenever we're sending an update request as an API to update something, this is called a put request, and the request method is put. And finally, if we decide to delete the comment because we don't want to have it anymore, we send a delete request, and that's the request type to delete the message in the server. The reason I wanted to share the available or some of the available actions that we have is to give you a glance of how APIs are used. So you can think of them as just methods to be able to manipulate or change data within your web page, whether to log in, log out, to search for data, to display data, to edit data, to add new data. All of these actions that you usually do with any web browser application are done with the help of APIs. There are multiple other applications for APIs aside from helping web applications interface or communicate with their servers. But I hope this video gave you at least an initial overview of what is an API and how does it look like and how does it work. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to post them as comments and I will try to reply as soon as I can. If you have any recommendations for what our next topics should be about, also please write in the comments. If you like this video, please hit like and subscribe, and thank you for listening. Bye.